Hey everyone, welcome back to the Retro Gamer Chronicles. This is Eric.
And this is David, the lame dad.
We're back for episode number 3. Can you even believe that we're already on episode 3, dude?
It's kind of crazy because we talked about this for a while. I say talk, planned, and kind of worked through everything. And
Yeah.
now we're here.
Now we're here, man. I feel like it's been a lot of like just research and watching some great TV episodes. So we're here for Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles, episodes number 3 and 4. So the Turk and Heavy Metal. I think these were both pretty good episodes, and we'll talk through each of these. But we're hoping that you guys are enjoying, some of the content we're putting out. We're getting some good feedback, and I think folks are watching along with us. It's pretty cool, David.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. I'm glad that we're getting some good feedback.
Yeah, no, 100%. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So if you're following along, we're starting out with the Turk. So this one opens up to, again, another dream. This one was a little intense for me. So Sarah is dreaming about killing the nuclear physicist who invented the nuclear bomb. So same idea with just like, Judgment Day and machines being created and killing everybody. She wants to kind of go back and, in this dream and kill folks with creating the bomb and starting all this terrible stuff throughout the world, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny to see Sarah Connor, dreaming this inside this, lab or classroom type area with all these old dudes with suspenders and white t-shirts, and
Right.
she pulls the Glock out and she just
Right.
starts shooting them.
Right. And then they all start like she shoots them, right? And they all come back to life, right? In the dream.
Yeah, they all come back to life, and kind of messes with her for a second, but then she realizes that they're all endoskeletons. They're
Right.
all Terminators,
Terminators. Yep.
which I think could be a very unique twist on the whole story.
Right.
We saw back in episode 1, we learned that there were resistance fighters that were sent back in time when they built that bank vault, that
Right.
they were just stashing parts and pieces. So when you kind of start thinking about that, and we're kind of getting off into a rabbit hole here,
No, it's
but
good.
when you start thinking about how they were going back to that point in time, it's like, how far does Skynet actually go back?
Right. And I also feel like we didn't really get a lot about the resistant fighters that were at the safe house. So she's going through some newspaper clippings and different things that she's starting to realize about these folks. And she sees the resistance party was a Skynet hunting party. And she decides to talk to Teresa Dyson, which is the widow of Miles Dyson. But yeah, I think, like you said just now, I feel like a lot of this stuff is the lore, man. It's like they do a good job of writing all that into the actual episodes.
Yeah, it really does. And going back to the bank vault, just the lore there. That's something that within this series, within the franchise, within the universe, that I never really thought about too much. Was, they sent people back even further,
Right.
just to kill John Connor or prevent
Right.
John Connor. And it really helps expand the lore and opens a bunch of different doors in the universe. It's just really cool to see them expand or experiment with some of that
Yeah.
stuff.
That's kind of like what got me excited about when I found out that you didn't see this yet. I mean, as a fan, both of us, I was like, okay, it's like I get to see it like again from your eyes and from your view, not seeing it before. So this is why this is such a lot of fun. So we hope you guys are enjoying the Retro Gamer Chronicles because this is fun for us. So at least someone's
Yeah, it's a
having
lot of
fun.
fun. It's a lot of fun.
All right. So next we're going to go over to John and Cameron. Now remember, Cameron, the T800 Terminator. I guess she's not really a T800, but John and Cameron prepare to go to a new school. Sarah is paranoid about the security, but John blows off her concerns. So then basically they're going through the metal detector, and he has to basically tell a security guard that she has a metal plate in her head. And obviously he uses the wand on it and sees that.
Yeah, he wands. He hits her with a wand, and it keeps going off. And yeah, I mean, it's just really, really crazy because you see that, and we talked a little bit about it last week, where the substitute or the teacher walks in and he digs that pistol out of his leg.
Yep.
You made the comment where it was, okay, he's a Terminator. Why couldn't he's going to walk through a metal detector, and
Right.
and then here she is in episode 3, and
Walking
she's,
through.
yeah, she has
Right.
she gets hit with it.
That's such a good point. I feel like it's almost like a little like I don't know, foreshadowing of something they were, thinking about writing into the actual script. But Yeah, I mean, it worked, and he got her through it with the metal plate thing. So that was kind of fun. So next we see Sarah looking for Teresa at Miles Dyson's gravesite. It's the 10-year anniversary of Miles' death. Sidebar again, I thought this was great just because, obviously we know Miles Dyson died. He's the reason for Skynet and everything being happened, in 97. So I thought that was really cool how they kind of worked his widow into it and gave her, a role in this. And they kind of went back and forth around, who was this guy, Andy Good from Cyberdyne that worked with Miles.
Yeah, I like how they brought her into the last couple of episodes where they've given her, as you said, a role in this series because, I mean, she can be a really, she can have a good role in this series based upon her character.
Mhm.
And I like how they're in the graveyard and that last shot of that scene. Teresa Dyson goes on to tell, Sarah that, basically her husband died in vain.
Right.
And, Sarah makes the comment, nobody dies in vain. And I kind of feel like he did because, Skynet's still going on or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I like how they kind of brought her into this.
Yeah, that's pretty well done. So that's kind of what she gets out of her during the conversation is, Andy Good and trying to track him down. So she finds out that he now works as a cell phone salesman part-time, I guess, at this cell phone store, which, dude, I mean, I don't know about you, when I saw the flip phones and stuff, I'm like laughing because it's just like the quality is so bad back
Oh
then.
man. Yeah. And so like you bring up a really good point, and I'm definitely looking forward to getting into that in a few minutes in
Mhm.
episode 4.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was really unique just to see the cell phone store and see how here's this guy working in a he's a salesman when
Mhm.
he was an intern at Cyberdyne.
Yep. So then we see Agent Ellison shows up at the Resistance safe house where obviously those guys were killed, and they're doing some digging around for some, different what's the word I'm looking for, evidence and whatnot. So I think they're playing up the character a little bit because they're making fun of him a few times. I feel like he hasn't really worked a crime scene in a long time, obviously because it was, don't forget, they went from 97 to 2007. So we didn't really see, you didn't really, this case had gone cold. So he wasn't doing a lot of other stuff, I guess, like field work. So now that this was his case, he's back in the field and they're kind of busting his chops on it back and forth. They see a fingerprint report on the dead men and don't show any databases. So they're convinced, the FBI is convinced that the agent on scene, the men are just drug dealers. Ellison finds it strange that the safe was wired directly into the power because the safe exploded. And then the officer on the scene, I'm sorry, not exploded, it shocked them. The officer on the scene blows it all over as thinking the case, basically just not big of a deal. And then Agent Ellison is convinced that somebody came back for whatever was in the safe when we know that obviously they did. They took the money out of the safe and things like that.
Yeah, they were definitely making fun of him. And one thing I didn't catch inside this episode was the female FBI agent, the one who was really, busting his nuts,
Yeah.
busting his chops, whatever her name was. And I guess she's at maybe a superior of his, but yeah, they're definitely giving him a hard time. So I think the way his role is playing out is he is the kind of, old detective that has been kind of crazy chasing around this case, and they're all kind of giving him a hard time.
Yeah, Agent Greta Simpson, played by Catherine Dent, is the one that was busting his chops. Yep. And again, a lot of good actors kind of woven throughout here. We'll talk about those folks too. But she does a solid job as well. But yeah, definitely busting his chops and giving him a hard time. All right. So after we leave that scene, now we see Cromartie, which he goes to a hospital to steal blood. So now at this point, we don't see Cromartie body or face anymore. He's got, stuff all over him covered up. He's got a hoodie on and things like that. So during the robbery, he knocks out a hospital employee and security guard tries to stop him, escaping with large quantities of type O positive plasma. So he's looking for blood.
He's out for blood.
Yeah.
One thing that's kind of I've been thinking about today as I've watched the episodes is, we see that in episode 2, he goes back and he grabs the endoskeleton head, and it's kind of like how did he go? How did the guy didn't have a head? He didn't have a skull. How did he go after it? I mean, I don't think they're ever going to reveal any of that, but
No.
it's just kind of TV magic. I would say movie magic, but it's
Yeah.
TV magic.
No,
But yeah, it's cool to see Cromartie be a Terminator here.
Yeah. Yeah, doing the Terminator thing, and I feel like during these scenes, the music was really dark, which I like that too. Made me feel like Terminator. They did a really good job with, I think, overall with introducing him again back into the show. So here we go. So Sarah goes to the cell phone store to meet Andy Good, the computer specialist working as a salesman. She buys 3 phones, and after she talks to him, he goes out to her car. So basically, he's like flirting with her and hitting on her, and eventually, I think she agrees to have dinner with him. And after she finishes her dinner, Andy shows her his invention, which is the Turk, a super intelligent chess computer. So that's basically where it clicks in her, because she's trying to figure out during dinner, like, who is this guy? Like, how did he have an involvement in Cyberdyne? And that's when she figures out that the Turk.
Yeah, it was fun because she's questioning him, Andy, what do you do? What is it that you do? And he says, well, hey, if you really want to see, I'll show you or whatever. And he pulls this key off from his neck, and it's just really Cyberdyne, I guess. I don't know. It's really
no, you're right, because remember in T2 when they go to turn the keys? Yep.
Yeah, that's immediately what I clicked to. And whether or not they intended for that, it just reminded me again of the lore.
It's so funny. I just watched T2 this weekend. I just wanted to watch it. And now that you mentioned that, I remember that scene. Like, you're right. I didn't think about it until you said that, with it being around his neck, but that's actually a really good call out.
And it was really cool to see, when he opens that door, it's just a mess of computer parts.
Yeah.
And I mean, and he's making it work. He's building it.
100%. This is awesome. And we're going through it. So after that now, so she kind of determines at that point that, he could be a real threat, and she's got to figure that whole thing out. John meets an attractive girl and begins to strike up a friendship. Cameron transfers into the class to protect him. And then we see Agent Ellison goes out to the house of Enrique's nephew, Carlos. He interviews Carlos, asking about the 3 phone calls between Enrique and Carlos in the day Enrique was killed. I don't think we actually talked about that in the last review that we did, but I like killing Enrique. Like, I know obviously Cameron did it, but that was a pretty big deal for, like, I feel like that was a shock at that point. I didn't see that death coming. So that's kind of wanted to bring that up real quick.
I kind of agree. Well, I don't say I agree with you. I don't think I saw the death coming, but I did kind of sense or feel that he could be just a rat or a bad
narc,
dude.
Yeah. Yep,
yeah.
He's a narc. Yep.
Yeah. And so, like, I'm not a fan of Carlos. I don't know how much he's in this series, but it seems like when we see him, he's always around these other bad looking dudes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, what did you do to be sitting where you're sitting at?
Right.
It kind of looks like a tool.
Right. You're totally right. So Ellison, like, that actually was a good scene, I felt like, between Ellison and the guys around Carlos. That was actually kind of like, are they going to jump him? Like, they seemed like they really wanted to at first. And he's great. You're going to love, I'm telling you, as the series goes on, he's got a big role in this. So you'll continue to love him. That's going to be great.
I didn't care for his character so much in episode 1 or the pilot, but I'm starting to like Ellison. He's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, he's going to become like one of those guys where it's like, I'm trying to like give a good example of, like, it's like the guy that you love to hate. Like, you love him, you don't want anything to happen to him, kind of thing. And like, he's actually a really good guy throughout the series, and it's really cool. All right, so Cromartie goes to the workplace of a scientist now. So the scientist is played by Adam Godley. I can't think off the top of my head what else he's in, but I know just by looking at his face, he's in a ton of stuff.
I think he's in the Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, what's he in that?
I think Bane kills him. I think.
Okay, I think you might be right, because I'm telling you, his face is like super familiar. So he basically goes into the scientist's house, and he's threatening him, but he's not really saying much. He basically just goes and he writes over on the wall, he comes home and sees it. And it's basically like a science experiment kind of thing to make this blood and grow human skin for the Terminator.
Yeah. And it's at first he's like, this is impossible. And
Right.
again, he's not saying much, but he's like possible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's you're listening to this scientist talk, and he's basically saying, we all had it wrong.
Mhm.
Everything was wrong.
Right.
And yeah, I think all of that was a really good scene.
Sorry, I'm reading the next paragraph and I'm dying.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Yeah.
yeah. So this next paragraph is basically Cameron's having a hard time with folks at school and fitting in because obviously she's Terminator. She's in the bathroom and someone calls her a. So she thinks it's like a term of endearment.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a fun scene. It's so fun watching her kind of come into the school. The metal plate in the head, the way she gets transferred into to John's class. I mean, she is just such a robot. And
Totally.
the bathroom scene there. I mean, yeah, she takes the as a positive thing.
Right. And she
And
calls the girl there, like the girl's crying and she's having a hard time. And she gives her a cool present. And she says, "This is really tight." Cause like she's learning the lingo. But
yeah,
again, goes back to Terminator 2. It reminds me of when John was like teaching the Terminator, like, Arnie about, different things to say and like how to act normal and be Uncle Bob. And like, again, it's taking off of that and recreating it. But I did not feel like that was cheesy.
no. So something we haven't brought up yet, and I feel like episode 3 really didn't have a ton of cheese.
Hmm.
I really feel like it was a pretty legit episode all the way through, all things considered.
Yep.
And it is fun that she's learning and she's trying to adapt and fit in. And it's really cool the way it's unfolding.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. So next one we go into, so Cromartie takes off his clothes in front of the scientist back at that scene, and he goes into the bathtub, which is filled with blood. And the scientist is like in awe of watching this whole thing, go down. In the back of our heads, like we know, dude, like you're not going to survive this, bro. Like we know that you're going to be killed once he's like, back to the way he should be.
Yeah, and it's like the scientist is like making notes with this tape recorder the whole time.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, man, you're not gonna make
Yeah.
this.
You're not
And
going to
even
live
if
through this.
yeah, and even if you do make it past this initial part, like you're not gonna make it in this series. Um,
No.
and this was such an awesome scene.
Yep.
And yeah, the CGI and kind of the graphics for the film are nowhere, or for the show, obviously are nowhere near the quality of the movies, but it looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think for the budget they probably had, I think it looked really good. And again, the music, the whole scene, all the stuff combined makes it work.
It does, and it was a lot of fun to see the endoskeleton
Yeah.
and see the kind of terror and the intensity
Yep.
and the normal suspense that we're feeling with a Terminator movie.
I 100% agree with you, David. All right, so now we're back at the school, and this is basically where the girl that was in the bathroom crying with Cameron is threatening to, right? Isn't this where? Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
yes, she's threatening to kill herself, and she goes up to the roof, I believe, and this is where she does jump.
They're trying to build John's character here.
Mhm.
That's what this scene is about. Is they're trying to make him this leader of sorts, because he does try to go. He wants to go rescue her.
Yes, and he's pissed off with Cameron for not letting him go, but basically she doesn't want him to put himself at risk because she's got to protect him.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and she mentions, hey, you could be exposed. The cops could come. You could be in papers or whatever. Who says tight anymore? I mean, it's
Dude,
awesome to hear that, but
even in like 2007, no one was saying tight anymore. Like,
no,
you know what I
no,
mean? I mean, I might say it's like a joke, but it's not like, like, oh, that, that's really fat. Like, no one says
yeah,
PHAT fat anymore. Like,
no,
I never
yeah,
did anyway.
no. Neither did I. But some of the young people I work with now, I'll say tight, and they're like, "What? What?" Like
Tight?
you
Yeah.
wouldn't understand.
No, like, no, no, thank you. So the last
Ah,
scene of this, I love the last scene of this episode. That was great. So Cromartie emerges from the bloodbath covered in newly formed skin and living tissue. However, his new body does not include eyes. So, David, what do you think he does then?
This is such a really fun scene. He doesn't. What I think is fun about this scene is what the scientist does here.
Mhm.
The scientist comes in and basically, makes the slits,
Yep.
for the Terminator to open his eyes. And I don't know if we want to talk about that right now
Yeah.
because it does kind of talk in episode 4 where he kind of takes his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But when he makes those slits, right, and he opens his eyes, the Terminator has eyes.
Right.
They're just not human eyes.
Right. So like at that point, that's where he kills him, takes the eyes, and then Cromartie also destroys all the evidence. And then Ellison, FBI, investigates the bloody murder of the scientist. Meanwhile, Sarah burns down. So that's the end of that episode. Sarah burns down Andy's house in order to destroy the Turk computer.
And this is something that, a few scenes before that, Cameron, tells Sarah, Andy needs to be killed.
Right.
And so Sarah, she doesn't do this, right? She just burns down the house to, destroy the evidence, destroy the Turk.
That's actually a good point. They show that she's conflicted because, like, she actually likes him. He's a good guy. She doesn't want to kill him. And that's the best way for her to think about it, is to burn the house down. So she's kind of like growing as a character and a human being,
But I kind of feel like at some point this may come back to haunt her. This may come back to bite them.
Maybe you could be right there. You could be right there. That's the cool thing I have above you. I kind of know where we're going. All right, awesome. So that really brings us to the end of episode 3, which is the Turk. So we'll go ahead and run through Heavy Metal, which is episode 4. And guys, right off the get-go here, like these episodes may go kind of long. We really appreciate you guys, hanging out with us. Like, this is so much fun. Like, we just are passionate. We just keep talking. So I think David and I could probably talk for hours around this stuff. So we'll try to keep it concise where we are. But I think this is a lot of fun. So good episode, like you said, very little cheese. I liked episode 3.
Yeah, it was a great episode. And if you're following along with us and not sure you want to jump in, episode 3 really kind of really kind of brings it all together.
It does.
It's a great episode.
Yeah, no, it starts showing like the real, like the seeds are starting to be planted and you're really starting to see what's growing into. So awesome stuff. So for Heavy Metal episode number 4, I like this one. David, I think, a little back and forth maybe, but I like this one a little bit. I think it kind of, we'll talk about it, but it shows some cool stuff in here, I think, as well from the series. But all right, so John Connor is in his room looking at a website in memory of Jordan Cowan, who's the girl who jumped in the last episode. And, obviously just feeling sad about that. Cameron then walks in and warns that Cromartie is here now. All three follow Cameron to the living room, where she shows a newspaper article about an arsonist causing a fire at a dock in Oakland, which resulted in the rerouting of a shipment of coltan. And I believe coltan is one of the primary elements used to create the endoskeletons.
Yeah, and so this is where, again, it just kind of expands the lore and the universe. This is what they're making the endoskeletons of, and they talk about it a little bit later in the episode. But it's not a heavy metal. It's it's something that it's extreme fire resistant and stuff like that.
Right. That's one of the things that I forgot about until I watched this episode, and I think I might have missed it or I forgot about it. But how did he get there? Is when they travel back in time, his head came through with them, and that's where he gets the head from that guy in the other episode, and it shows in the picture. They can see in the background there's the head.
I thought that was some cheese. I really did. Yeah, okay. I really did. I was like, okay, because up to this point I thought that somehow maybe he had just stayed around from 1997 or 1999, and he just kind of weathered the storm, so to speak, and just waited for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could also be one of those things where, like, almost like an afterthought. Like, how are we going to bring it's maybe they didn't think about it then and they thought about it towards the end, like you said, right? So it's kind of like making it fit. And once we get towards, I have an idea, the theory too, as we get to the later part of this episode around Cromartie and the actor that plays him. I have a little theory around that as well.
Awesome.
All right. So Cameron basically obviously shows, that he came through. She suggests they take action soon. And Sarah makes plans to head to Mexico, but John protests, arguing that Cromartie will be weaker and that it's time to stop running and start fighting. That's a big part of this episode. John's really sticking up for himself, trying to, like, I don't want to run anymore. We just found a place. I like it here. Let's, try to figure out where that shipment of a coltan is coming from. And that's what they started tracking that down.
Yeah, they're really trying to build his character here and, make it match or shape him into being this resistance leader. And yeah, they're really trying to grow that character and fulfill that.
Right. So Sarah, John, and Cameron go to the warehouse. They see where the coltan is being held to try and destroy it, and they see a truck that leaves the warehouse. Before Cromartie ever arrived, John spots a man in boxes and undershirts, realizes that somebody just stole the coltan. They follow the truck to another warehouse, and then waiting outside, Cameron explains that coltan is used because it's much higher melting point than the endoskeleton used on the T600. And then Sarah notices military tags on these folks that are walking around in the warehouse. So basically, this is kind of like all winding into here. So Agent Ellison is at a crime scene. He notes that he is following the trail of some unnatural blood. Looking at the security tape, Smith sees a man enter Friday night and leave Sunday morning. On his way out, his face is identified as George Laszlo, a former patient. So basically, this area that he's in the doctor's office is a plastic surgeon. So obviously, Cromartie is going there to change his look.
Yeah, and it's funny to watch him. And what got me is this surgeon is here, after hours on a Friday night.
Yeah. Right.
And supposedly, I mean, I got the impression that it was really, really late.
Yes, it did. For me, I felt the same thing. It's like, oh, he's like, we're closed. My question is, okay, if you're closed, I mean, I guess he's a Terminator, but like, isn't the door locked? I mean, I didn't hear him break in or anything. Like,
Yeah, and he assumes this face of George Laszlo, and he's going through all these faces and looking at all of these pictures of these patients, right. And I just wonder if there was more of a reason why he picked Laszlo. Or versus somebody else.
So I've done no research on this, but my theory is the reason the whole idea that how this kind of came about is because the guy that played Cromartie in the pilot was not available to play in ongoing, so they had to change the Terminator, and that's my theory, and that's why they didn't show his face until this episode, because they had to make the whole thing. So if that's the case, they wrote this wholly based off of that, which I think kind of would make sense.
Yeah, I can get into that. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
So like basically, like, again, obviously I was thinking about it too, where like the cheese factor, they literally, the plastic surgeon can make you look identical to the guy, but then I'm thinking to myself, there's freaking Terminators walking around, so I mean, like, you can't really call BS on that, because it's freaking science fiction to begin with.
Right. Yeah. And And, we talked about the resistance fighters in the last episode and how they were Skynet hunters. And so one thing that's kind of being developed in this series is that there are Terminators everywhere. There's Terminators walking around, and they're out to do these jobs, not just kill people per se, but they're doing tasks and missions that aren't terminating people.
Right. 100%. So now we're back at the warehouse, and then John and Sarah argue about trying to follow the shipment. They want, basically, he wants to follow it to see, where it's going to go next, and they agree to leave and follow the vehicle. And then she sees John climbing back into the warehouse to go inside, and he plants his cell phone in the truck to track the movement of coltan, but is trapped inside. He's trapped inside when the crew locks the van and they pull out of the warehouse. So they basically see this whole thing going down, and then they get into their car and they follow the truck. Sarah and Cameron are confronted by one of Carter's crew. Oh, that's right. They're held at gunpoint before Sarah disarms him. That's actually a pretty cool scene. I feel like that actor, he's in a lot of stuff too. He's a good actor.
Yeah, that was a really fun scene. The whole way it worked out. I mean, yeah, John, I mean, you had to see that coming, where John was just going to run off.
Yeah, totally. I think it fit for his character too at this point,
Yeah, again, just like further trying to develop his character into this resistance leader.
So as they're traveling, that's right. They lose basically where he is. So they try to figure out. They check his cell phone, and then as John's in the back of the truck, the phone falls from where it's where he put it up, and it breaks basically. So they lose where he's tracked, and then this guy Mike, one of the assistants, in the back of the truck, John has to knock him unconscious so he doesn't like rat him out, and so we're that he's back there.
And like when that cell phone breaks, I can't say for sure, but it looks like a BlackBerry.
I think it. Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think it was. Yeah.
And those things were almost indestructible. They weren't they weren't like the old school Nokias that were like bricks.
Oh yeah, that was my
But
first ever phone. Yeah.
brick like this BlackBerry, the way it doesn't fall far either.
Yeah, no, it
It's
does.
not off of
Well,
a building.
no, it's not. Again, 100%. Like it did not fall that far. It probably would not have broke, but obviously for the episode, they had to make it look real. I guess
Yeah, and the only reason it's a big point is because it does they're tracking the cell phone and then it just
and it goes dead.
stops. Yeah.
Yep, and it goes dead. So then we see a big part of this episode. So Agent Ellison is discussing Laszlo with a fellow agent who advises him not to spend any more time on the case. He smells a rat, like he still feels there's something going on, and he's like, "What's going on with Laszlo? Like, why was he there? What's going on?" Agent Stewart arrives and notifies Ellison that Laszlo had arrived for questioning and asks about the case. Ellison obtains a blood sample to compare with the sample from the crime scenes.
Yeah, that's
Then,
also a fun scene. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
They try to go in and get blood from the guy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just fun to watch them kind of play this scene up because he again, the Terminator made him look like Laszlo.
Mm-hmm.
And here Laszlo is in for questioning. So
right. So the real Laszlo obviously is in the police department, and getting interrogated. But the thing about it is, you're going to come to see, I think, this guy that plays Laszlo is where is he on here? He's an excellent actor. Like he actually becomes like a big part of the series. He's a really good actor. There he is, Garrett Dillahunt. I think he's in a bunch of stuff too. But he's actually a great actor. Like he does this really well. So that was pretty cool. Now we go back to see Sarah and Cameron. They tied up the worker and held him at gunpoint outside the warehouse, and Sarah's asking him for information. She hits him several times, but she does. She really like lays into this guy, threatening to torture him, and he basically does talk. And she leaves him with Cameron, and then the three are then shown driving through the desert on an old gunnery range. Their specific destination is Depot 37, which is where that truck has gone.
Yeah, she definitely kind of lets him have it.
Next scene, I'm sorry, yeah, she totally does. I'm reading along here. Laszlo is microwaving. Remember what he was microwaving?
It was like a hot pocket.
A hot pocket, yeah, because he's like a struggling actor so they're making it look like kind of real. And he's microwaving the knock at the door, or Cromartie shows up and grabs him and by the throat and kills him because Cromartie doesn't want this guy to talk and all this stuff, so he has to track him down. So now Cromartie is Laszlo. He's Laszlo's dead.
Yeah, you can't have two Laszlos running around.
You cannot. that'd be creepy. All right, so John is in the truck. They stops at Depot 37. Carter's men don't see Mike, the man left inside, which was with John, and assume he abandoned the operation. John hid his body behind the box so they couldn't see him. That at this point, I don't want to spoil anything for people following along, but at this point, we don't know about Carter yet, right?
Yeah, well, there's kind of suspicion. There's kind of suspicion,
right,
about Carter, but yeah, I don't want to give too much away yet.
Okay, all right, we're getting there. We're getting there. Agent Ellison is at a meeting with supervisor again. The theory going back and forth. They're thinking he's crazy. Like there's just no way this guy's involved, and they want to let Laszlo go, and he wants to kind of reinvestigate it and find out what's going on. He just doesn't buy it. There's something missing,
Yeah, and they're really trying to get him just to stop.
Yes, they're trying to let it go. Just stop. Don't even look into it anymore. We get back to Sarah and Cameron. They leave the informant in a minefield on the way to Depot 37. Cameron says it would have been more efficient to kill him, but Sarah reminds her that she doesn't always operate logically. Again, Terminator 2, having a discussion with John. He's like, don't kill anybody anymore. So they go to bring his mom out of the psycho ward, and he shoots the guy in the knees. He's like, he'll live. So they're learning. It's kind of the same idea.
I think I love that scene in Terminator 2. And when I was younger, I laughed hysterically over and over again because, he's like, you called him a wad.
Yeah.
It's just classic scene.
Oh yeah, that one's good. Yeah, that one's great. He goes there to kind of help the kid, and he ends up breaking his hand. He almost shot him. So
yeah.
John sneaks out of the truck and sees Carter execute his two accomplices before standing guard at the door. So now he kills these guys. He stands guard at the door, meaning literally just standing there. And I think at this point he powers down, right? So we find out at this point that he's a Terminator.
Yeah, at this point, He does, and he goes into standby mode, where he's kind of guarding the door, guarding this coltan.
Yep.
And as the episode's playing out, I mean, I thought that he was a Terminator. And Cameron mentions that Cromartie's here because of the rerouting of the coltan,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not Cromartie, right? It's Carter who's kind of
Right.
made this happen. And again, it just expands on the franchise and the lore that these Terminators are here and they're doing other things than just hunting John Connor.
Right. And this next few scenes, as we get up to the final close of the show here, this episode, I was legit, even watching it again more recently, I was on edge. I don't know if you were when you're watching it, but the part where he has to kind of, we'll get there, but we have to see, I was like on edge, and that did a good job with like the suspense. I feel like making this more into like a thriller of an episode.
Totally agree. Absolutely. Watching this, I definitely was on edge, and that may sound corny or cheesy because it's just a TV episode. But again, getting into it and really enjoying it, that is definitely a very suspenseful moment and scene that's kind of unfolding here.
Yep. And so Sarah and Cameron, they arrive at Depot 37, which is empty. And then Cameron confirms the location as the future site of a Terminator building factory, saying that the coltan becomes rare in the future because of explosions and was stored at Depot 37 in the nuclear fallout bunker to protect it, which is where John is in the car with Carter sitting guard in that bunker. I actually forgot about at this point. I forgot that Mike was in the truck with him, and Mike wakes up and confronts John. John has to kind of talk him down and say that, hey, this guy, your boss just killed your buddies. Like they're dead, and then John tests a Carter. Oh, that's right. So what happens to Mike at that point? Oh yeah. Mike confronts Carter. That's right. Mike walks up to the Terminator. Carter wakes him, shakes him up, wakes him up, and he kills him.
Yeah. He's in standby mode. He's like, locked down, power off, guarding the door, waiting for, Judgment Day or whatever. And he kills Mike. And Mike has to shove him. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that scene. I just thought that was just so, I don't know, Terminator-esque. I don't know. That's just really cool stuff there.
Definitely agree. Absolutely.
So John finds a phone. John finds a phone in the bunker, which again is an active phone in the bunker now that's connected to a landline. Okay, sure, fine. And he calls his mom. And then basically his mom tells him that she's on the other side of the door and that he says that Carter's in standby mode. And I believe she kind of goes back and forth to Cameron, and Cameron tells them that it takes 15 seconds for Carter to reboot from standby mode. So he has some time to, if there's a lot of noise, because the door is going to make a lot of noise, it takes time to open. So he's basically got 15 seconds to do that before he wakes up.
Yep.
So John sees that the key, this is a cool scene. You have to, where's the key? And it's around his neck. And that's the whole discussion. So he has to walk up to him. This is what I was saying before with the suspense. Oh my God, it's kind of going to wake up and kill him, but obviously it's like, this is only episode number 4. So John Connor's not going to die yet, but he's got to take the key away from his neck.
Yeah. It's very suspenseful, and he's trying to sneak around. And initially he goes to open the door and he realizes it's locked.
Right.
So when he's sneaking up to the Terminator, it's definitely some suspense in that scene.
Totally. So then Cameron confronts Carter. Okay. So he gets the door open. And I think when the door opens, how does Carter just wakes up and then stops the door or something? And I forget that part. So
the door opens and, John sneaks out, very lackluster at that point. He just kind of sneaks out.
Right.
And then we see a fight ensue, a good Terminator fight.
Yes.
Ensue between Carter and Cameron. And while the time, this blows me. Well, it doesn't blow me away, but it goes to show just the kids nowadays. And, John jumps in the truck with his mom, with Sarah,
right,
and he can't drive a stick.
Right. Yes. That was funny. Like you're the leader of the resistance. You can't drive a stick.
No, like none of these kids can anymore.
No, I can't. I mean, I can't either. Sorry. I never had to learn. Like I just never, but again, I could get out of first gear if I had to. I've driven a stick for my dad's Mustang, but like, I don't know, but you're right. I feel like no one could probably even think about it now. Like most people,
Well, and to be fair for John, give him credit here. It is a very hard clutch, I'm sure, because it's a big truck.
It's a big truck. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big truck. As he's trying to drive out, Carter is basically putting his hand on the truck, stopping the truck from leaving. And eventually Sarah he gets it in gear. Yeah. Sarah shoots him. He gets it in gear and runs him over.
Yeah,
which is a pretty fun scene.
it is good. And they lock him inside, so he's back in the bunker. He's
Yes.
locked inside. And then, yeah. So just real quick before we go to the last part here, like I feel like that whole scene for me, I feel like made the. That's why I kind of like the episode. I don't know. I just like that whole scene and the ending there.
Yeah, that was a good scene. The fight, the locking the Terminator in because it's like, okay, he's stuck.
Yep.
Cameron's got the key. He's stuck.
Yep. Perfect. And then the ending of the episode is Agent Ellison visiting Laszlo, who is, actually Cromartie, obviously at this point, and advises him that someone might be stealing his identity, and then gives him his contact information. And I felt there was some good humor on the part of the Terminator that's, being, Laszlo at this point. That was really funny. Like, he gives him the card. He's looking at the card and he's like, oh, okay, I'll call you. Or, I don't know. That was pretty funny.
Real quick, one thing I wanted to bring up before we get into that part, because that part is really, really good. But we see that once they get the truck and they steal this coltan, Cameron, drives the truck off the cliff.
That's right. And sinks in the water, right?
Yeah, just some good cheese here. She's got the truck, riding off, off the cliff, and instead of jumping out of the door like any normal action hero, she punches through. She punches through the windshield and it climbs out.
Right.
And it's like, okay, you got to show off she's a Terminator. Can't you not just jump out the door?
I guess that's a good point.
Just some good cheese. Just some good cheese.
That's good. No, that's good. I'm happy they called that out. I remember that now. He's right. She punches it out, which also the CGI on that I don't think was very good. And then you see her on top of the truck and it looks fake, but whatever. That was, but still, yes, definitely some cheese there. And then basically, yeah.
Well, getting into what we were talking about right before that is the Laszlo scene. It's humorous and it's funny, but it stays true to what they're doing, that Cromartie, now Laszlo, is really trying to learn and kind of grow as is Cameron.
Right. To fit into society and to become part of that and make it, keep up the charade, And then I think the end of the episode, Sarah and John and Cameron return home. And that was, episode 4. I thought I do think I like 3 better than 4, but if you had to go back now and think about like 3 weeks ago when you first started watching this, right? Like, aren't you kind of getting into it now? Like you are kind of invested in this show at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm really enjoying it. I think that episode 3 was a big turning point. Again, the pilot was a lot of cheese, and episode 1, there was some cheese in it, or episode 2, but 3 is a really good episode, and it really starts to come together, and it's starting to feel like a really good series. And I'm really starting to enjoy it and nice. Get really invested into it.
That's nice. I'm glad to hear that. And episode 5 and 6 are really good. I watched them more recently again, just get caught up on this. And for next week, I think talking about 5 and 6 are going to be a lot of fun. There's some new characters that are introduced, and the storyline kind of takes a turn. And again, we go from 9 episodes in season 1 to 22 in season 2. So it's a lot of really good stuff to come. So I'm excited for it.
Hey, absolutely. And with the way episodes 3 and 4 are, I'm really excited for 5 and 6.
David, the one thing too, just kind of about our series, I'm excited for our series, like the Retro Gamer Chronicles, RGC, just because like thinking about the potential things that we can we can talk about Pulp Fiction at some point, because we're behind you there. We can talk about a whole bunch of other movies and different TV shows. So I think this is a really great first, season for us for this and Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Yeah, I mean the media, we could get into is endless, and one thing that you don't see a lot on YouTube is TV series. Obviously, yeah. like we've talked about before, nobody is covering the Sarah Connor Chronicles, and so just something that you don't see a lot is film,
right,
and TV shows discussed, and that's something that I'm very passionate about, and I know you are as well.
Yeah, man, I think it's just so cool, like full circle for me. Just I went to school back in college and took some film classes and like learn about like different production and just like you always talk about like getting into the channel and editing and different things like that. That's why we love doing this. It's a lot of fun, and we put some time into it and hope to put out a good product for everybody. But this has been a lot of fun, David. I'm looking forward to continuing this each week. But anything else you wanted to add about these 2 episodes before we close out?
Just check them out.
Check them out. Watch them.
if there's something you're seeing in our episodes that you don't like or want to see more of, definitely let us know. We're always looking and eager to make this better for our audience. And again, as we continue to have a good time with it.
That's the thing, man. We do it because we have fun. And yeah, your last week's title card was just phenomenal. I love that one. Each week you're getting better and better, man. I can't wait to see as we continue through. But we appreciate you guys stopping by and spending some time with us each week. And like I said, like David said, leave some feedback below, give some comments and some likes where you can. That helps out a whole hell of a lot. So this has been Eric for GMR.
And this is David, the lame dad.
We'll catch you next week for the next episode of the Gamer Retro Chronicles.
Retro Gamer Chronicles.
There you go. Retro Gamer Chronicles. Thanks, guys.
Take care.